Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the seminar on innovation services at the ICO. My name's Lynn Curry, and I'm the ICO's Head of Innovation. When we talk about innovation at the ICO, we mean new and novel uses of personal data. This might include adapting technology to a new purpose, developing a new app or a device, or using AI in a new way to produce new insights. Or it might well be, as it often is, a whole new business idea that we haven't thought of yet. So we aim to provide an advice service for whatever stage your innovation might be at. As some of you will already know, we have a team that provides advice on prior consultation for DPIAs. We have an innovation hub that works on larger scale innovation challenges, and a regulatory sandbox that works in depth with innovators working in areas where applying regulation can be difficult or where it hasn't been done before. We will tell you more about all of these shortly, but in summary, our aim is that however far you've got in your innovation journey, we will be able to help you if you need it. At present, if you need advice on a DPIA, if you need short-term mentoring to address a challenge, particularly if you're working with another regulator, or if you need in-depth longer-term help, we might be able to provide it. And we are developing our services all the time to provide more and to fit more assistance into the gaps in between those current services. So we're going to show you how the ICO supports innovation from early product development to post-market deployment and how effective this is. This will include a video featuring 4 innovators who've been supported by our Sandbox and our Innovation Hub. We hope this will give you an insight into how we can help your business to innovate with personal data and bring benefits to you, your business, the economy, and people's daily lives. We may have time for questions, so if you have any, please do pop them in the chat as we go along, and we will get to them if we have time at the end of the seminar. Before we go into any further detail about our advice services, those are only one side of our innovation department. Technology is changing and developing all the time, and we need to know what issues we might need to address in the future. So first of all, we're going to talk about the areas in which we anticipate seeing lots of future innovation activity. Our foresight team looks at the innovations of tomorrow and aims to identify which areas we will be advising on in 2 to 5 years' time, so we can get ahead of the game. Your company might be working on one of these areas or might need to be aware of how they are developing. So here's Adam Ingle, who leads our foresight team, with a forward look on the kinds of innovations we can expect to see in 5 years' time.
Thanks, Lynn. And hi, everyone. I hope you're staying cool in this very warm day. So as Liz mentioned, I'll be taking you through some of the key technologies the ICO's foresight function is examining right now. Before we get into that, though, you might ask, where does foresight sit within the ICO? Well, we're a new team designed to be the tip of the innovation spear, so to speak. Our role is to look into the future, as Lynn mentioned, understand which technologies and innovations are most likely to impact privacy, and get to grips with how they work, and to help the ICO plan ahead. This includes advising other parts of the organisation, like the Innovation Hub, which you'll hear from, the Sandbox team, and the tech department, on which industries are developing and deploying tomorrow's technology, allowing them to engage with officers and innovators like yourself to promote privacy-positive innovation. A large part of our job is cutting through the noise to isolate what tech really matters and what's just hype. Horizon scanning lets us do this. It's a method of identifying trends, signals, regulatory changes, and investment patterns to predict with some certainty what tech is around the corner. Let me take you now through some of our findings from our first Horizon scan and our initial futures work. We believe that the following 5 technologies will transform data processing within the next year. So biometric technologies. These are developing rapidly. In the near future, next generation biometric sensors will detect new, unique forms of physical and behavioral information and deploy insights on this data across a whole range of sectors. Blockchain. Despite the recent crash, blockchain tech is unlikely to disappear. It's probable we'll continue to see underlying blockchain technologies deployed beyond crypto to provide trust and security for many different types of transactions. Smart spaces. the next generation of Internet of Things devices are slowly transforming where we live and work. Interconnected environments will improve convenience and productivity, but also raise some privacy concerns. Immersive technologies, huge investment in augmented and virtual reality hardware is happening right now, and we will see these devices deployed beyond gaming and into enterprise for training and collaboration. This tech will revolutionize some tasks, but requires invasive personal data collection to reach its promise. And finally, it will be increasingly viable to insert privacy-enhancing technologies, or PETs, into the data lifecycle of many organizations, improving anonymity and security. The trick is finding out which type of PET works for your business and how the value of data can be maximized whilst ensuring there are adequate privacy protections. So let me quickly take you through each of these in a bit more detail. So biometrics. Already biometrics are widely used to improve security and usability across a range of devices. Think fingerprint logins for your phone. The beauty of biometrics is that unless you have a twin, your biometric data is unique to you. That makes it perfect for authentication. Accordingly, we'll continue to see it expand for authentication across a number of sectors. You can expect to see voice and facial recognition, iris scanning, or even tech that examines how you interact with your keyboard to be deployed across the finance, health, entertainment, and even education sectors. This will allow service providers to ensure you are who you say you are. What's new, though, is the use of biometrics for classification. More and more biometrics will be used to understand and infer a person's behavior and mood. Does the way they walk, their gait, indicate anger? Do your facial, eye, and mouth movements show sadness? These third-generation biometric technologies, powered by AI, carry significant risks. As soon as we start to infer a person's emotional state, we run the risk of bias. For example, might my AI predict that someone looking lost and confused at an airport is a security threat? If that's the case, then it would definitely clock me. We need to treat these types of use cases with caution. So on to blockchain. Despite the crypto crash, it's unlikely that blockchain will just disappear. The underlying technology is much more than crypto. It's about establishing a way for transactions to be secure and trustworthy without involving some kind of central intermediary, like a bank. Information and transactions on the blockchain are distributed across the network and verified for accuracy by multiple users. There isn't a single point of failure or an information bottleneck. This is great potential for peer-to-peer exchanges, or in cases where you can't trust or don't want to wait for any single entity to execute a transaction. For example, patient data might be permanently stored on the blockchain, and a patient can then share this information readily when they move between doctors, hospitals, or even countries. It's there online and unable to be easily tampered with. However, while people might claim the blockchain is the solution to online privacy, this isn't necessarily the case. For public blockchains to work, each transaction and the personal information in that transaction must be visible to the entire network and remain visible indefinitely. Yes, the information is anonymized, but with moderate technical know-how, this information is possible to be linked to an individual. We then have a case where sensitive information and sensitive transaction linked to a person are visible to everyone all the time, and this should raise some concerns. Fortunately, there's a lot of tech and innovations and changes in blockchain technology looking to address this very concern. Smart spaces. So smart spaces are the next generation of Internet of Things. The increasing power and sophistication of microsensors is transforming the physical spaces we live and work in. In the near future, and even right now, many office and home environments will be connected spaces. Your Alexa or Google device will control lighting, heating, entertainment systems, and send a combined analysis of how you interact with your home back to HQ. The same can be expected in office environments. Cameras, keystroke loggers might be combined with software on your operating system to monitor employee attendance and productivity. Personal devices might sync with office smart speakers and presentation facilities and blur barriers between the information you generate at work and in your personal capacity. These ecosystems will be enabled by ambient data collection, sensors that collect information continuously in order to function. Further, we'll be able to interact with these machines on a multimodal basis. This means that we can use not just our voice, but also touch and gesture to trigger prompts and issue instructions. With each interaction, this might contain potentially unique biometric signatures. It's a complex picture though. Some innovations associated with IoT, like edge computing, are potentially privacy positive. They can keep the processing information localized on the edge of the network, increasing our control of where and to whom our personal data goes. Next up is immersive technologies. I'm sure you've been hearing a lot about the metaverse, and there's a lot of hype and talk about virtual worlds right now. However, at the ICO, we're more immediately interested in the technologies that will underpin the metaverse, namely augmented and virtual reality. There are fantastic use cases for this tech, and the power and convenience of the hardware is increasing year by year. Surgeons are able to train on virtual patients, and engineers can collaborate and problem solve in real time across continents using a digital copy of things like factory equipment. To work, however, they need to collect intimate and detailed information. Eye tracking, pupil size, mouth movements, and heart rate monitoring will allow future devices to navigate the virtual environment and determine a user's mental effort and stress levels. We need to be mindful of how the personal information collected interacts with an individual's information rights. For example, does a service provider need information about a user's heart rate to power a game? Is this information being shared to other parties? As the virtual space becomes commercialized, might this information be used for targeted advertising? These are all questions we're considering. Finally, we come to privacy-enhancing technologies. I'll only discuss this briefly, as hopefully you're already familiar with the concept. What are PETs? Well, simply put, they are a collection of technologies that enable the sharing and use of data in a privacy-preserving manner. PETs, come in many different shapes and sizes, with some already deployable and some more difficult to adopt and scale. For example, right now you can outsource processing to a trusted execution environment where secure computation can occur and insights on your data extracted. Other methods like homomorphic encryption and differential privacy, which I won't explain here because they're fairly complex, but they encourage you, I really do encourage you to look these methods up. Those methods, they do show great promise, but they might be more difficult to implement at present for some businesses. Organizations should think about where a particular PET might sit on the privacy utility trade-off. A Goldilocks zone is where the PET provides strong data protection without materially reducing the ability of an organization to efficiently extract insights from the data. My advice is simple. Begin thinking about how you might deploy PETs now. Looking at the draft ICO guidance on PETs is a good starting point. While there are many other technologies that we're considering, I'll stop there because you will be hearing more from us soon. And we have a few publications coming out this year. We have a deep dive into biometric futures, hopefully releasing in late fall and at the end of summer, and that will look into use cases and risks and opportunities in biometric technologies in that 2 to 5 year period. And we also have a Technology Horizons report coming out, which is our analysis of the emerging tech trends that are most impactful for privacy. And we're hoping to release that later in the autumn. Before I close, I should just note that all the innovations discussed here show great promise for accelerating economic growth, jumpstarting businesses, and improving our lives. The ICO's interest is in not just informing people of potential risks, but it's also helping innovators deploy privacy-positive services and products. To speak more about how we might help you do exactly that, I'll pass over to Matt and Maddie, and they'll show you how the ICO can support your innovation at every stage, with a few top tips thrown in. Thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Hi, everyone. I hope you're all well and keeping cool at the moment. I'm Matt Cotton. I'm from the ICO's DPIA team.
And I'm Maddie Griffiths from the ICO's Innovation Hub.
And today we're here to give you some top tips for innovating with personal data and give you an overview of the range of services that the ICO offers to support you.
But first things first. As an innovator, using personal data in new and novel ways, why should data protection compliance and functionality be an essential part of your product design process? Quite simply, because it's good for business. Whether the market for your product is a member of the public or a multinational, Good data protection compliance is essential for customer confidence. Controllers need to know that they can protect personal data effectively when they use your product. Members of the public want to know that their data is kept secure and isn't going to be used in ways which are detrimental to them. Data protection by design and by default will give your product a key market advantage. So what does this look like? Here's Matt with some of our top tips.
Thanks, Maddie. So every innovator with personal data wants their innovation to scale, but how do you do that without a lot of sleepless nights? So at the very foundation of that, good innovating builds data protection in from the start. It's embodying data protection by design and by default and building that into the products and services that you're designing from the outset. Not only will this save you time and money when you're beginning to scale up, but also it helps you avoid expensive mistakes that can really hold back great innovations from wider adoption in the marketplace. So we've put some of our top tips on the screen there for you all to see. And as I said, the very foundation of that is building data protection by design and by default into those services, into those products that you're designing from the outset, making sure that you're building the data protection principles and information rights into those innovations from the start, understanding your roles and responsibilities under the legislation, carefully selecting and only using personal data that is absolutely necessary for the purposes for which you require it, and then choosing the most appropriate lawful basis to process that data under. And ultimately, it's about demonstrating your accountability to the framework as well, and being able to build that into your processes. So what we'll do now is we'll have a quick look through some of the services that the ICO offers to you to support innovation and help you build that forward. So if we move on. So without being biased, we'll make a start with my team, the DPIA team. So at the earliest stages of developing your product or your service, you need to be thinking about what personal data you need to process, how much, why, and the impact that this might have on an individual's rights and freedoms. So DPIA really is one of your key accountability tools to demonstrate that data protection and default process that we were just speaking about. So this enables you to systematically analyze, identify, and minimize the data protection risks of a project that you're looking to undertake. And it's a flexible living tool that you can apply to a wide range of projects that you're looking to undertake as well. Now, you see, this doesn't need to be time consuming or complex, but naturally there has to be a level of rigor in proportion to the privacy risks that are arising. And finally, this isn't about eradicating all risk, but it's about minimizing risk to acceptable levels, considering the benefits of what it is that you're wanting to achieve. So we'll just do a bit of a run through DPIAs. You might be sat there wondering, well, when do I do one? So the requirement in law, as it stands, is that you obviously do this prior to processing. It's from the outset when you're designing your product and service, and it's when you are of the opinion that it's likely to result in high risk to the rights and freedoms of individuals. The GDPR provides 3 non-exhaustive examples of that. So this will include things such as public monitoring, large-scale use of sensitive data, or systematic and extensive profiling with significant effects. And of course, the ICO will also required to publish a list of processing activities considered to require a DPIA. You'll find those on our website under our DPIA guidance. So very much recommend that you familiarise yourself with that. I won't go through all 10 right now, but just to pick out a few. This includes things such as when you're looking to use innovative technologies, so the use of AI, if you're looking to undertake large-scale profiling, or if you're going to be processing biometric data. These are sorts of things that you should be doing a DPIA. But we also say that it's good practice to do one for any major new project that you're looking to undertake, purely because, as we said, this helps you build data protection by design and default into your services and your products, and it helps you identify and mitigate those risks at an early stage. So that really helps you sort of, when you're doing it at that early stage, that's when you have the most scope for influencing how your product is developed and implemented. This obviously brings about broader compliance benefits as well. So it's an effective way of demonstrating your compliance with the data protection framework. You can identify and fix problems at an early stage. And obviously you can reassure individuals and build trust with consumers because you're demonstrating that you're protecting their interests and you've reduced any negative impact on them as much as you can. So this then brings us on to the DPIA team. So we've put out a range of useful information on our website to help you carry out your guidance. And again, I very much recommend you review our guidance on that to help you through that process. But if you do identify a high risk in your DPIA and you can't mitigate it, you are currently required to consult with us on these matters, and we can provide you with written advice within 8 weeks to assist you with that as well. So I've put the contact details for the DPIA team on the screen there for you, should you need to do that. So next we will talk about the ICO's regulatory sandbox team. So innovators working with new technologies to benefit the public may need bespoke support. So the sandbox supports a range of organisations. This includes startups, local councils and regulators. And previous sandbox entrants have looked at things such as age verification and the analysis of behavioural data to prevent harm. The sandbox accepts applications in line with their specific themes following the successful completion of an expression of interest form. Some of the current areas of focus for the team at the moment include innovations related to data sharing, particularly in the areas of health, central government, finance, higher and further education or law enforcement. And we will actually be hearing from 2 innovators a little later on about how the regulatory sandbox supported them. You'll find the expression of interest form on the ICO website, along with more information about how the sandbox works and the criteria for entry. If you do make the decision after reviewing some of that information on our website about the sandbox and you are looking to apply for that, I've put the email address for you on the screen there to submit your expression of interest form. And some of the benefits that you'll get out of speaking with our team is access to ICO expertise and support. You'll get a bespoke service to increase confidence in the compliance of your product or service as well as. So now I'm going to pass over to Maddie to speak to you about her team, the Innovation Hub.
Thanks, Matt. So, perhaps you're an innovator and you're taking part in a challenge or a catapult or an accelerator along with other startups. Or perhaps you're in a sandbox run by a regulator. Or you are a regulator and you want to work with another regulator on a difficult problem. Well, this is where you're going to meet my team, which is the Innovation Hub. We've worked with regulators and innovation agencies for the financial, employment, legal, health, utility and gambling sectors. We've supported sandboxes and tech sprints and challenges which benefit the public. We're currently working with connected places to make sure that when our places become smarter, they do so in a privacy-preserving way, making sure that people's rights are upheld. And we've also advised on safety tech to help keep people safe online. We're also collaborating with the Financial Conduct Authority's Sandbox to help innovators build good compliance functionality into their financial products. You're going to be hearing from 2 innovators who receive support from the Innovation Hub in a few minutes' time. So how do we do what we do? Well, we work one-to-one with innovators, so we get to know their products and we help them put privacy at the centre of their work. We're a free service and we're accessed by formal tech sprints and challenges. Our work helps raise standards in innovation with personal data. We've also supported regulators directly on data protection compliance topics, such as proposals for online safeguarding instruments in the gambling sector. We're always very keen to hear about new tech sprints and challenges which our team could support. So please do get in touch with us about potential collaboration opportunities. But what if you're an innovator who isn't on a tech sprint and you don't meet the criteria for the regulatory sandbox either? Well, we've got good news for you. The ICO will be launching a brand new service, iAdvice. It's for innovators who need fast, frank feedback about how they plan to process personal data. The team will give clear advice and it will save innovators time and money. We're very excited about the work iAdvice will do and the impact it will have, again, on raising standards in innovation, but also getting great innovations onto the market faster. When will it happen? Well, no pun intended given the slide, but watch this space. And finally, we have the ICO's business services team, which are there to support innovators once they've entered the marketplace. The SME Hub has its own section of the ICO website, and it offers a range of web tools to help SMEs with their data protection obligations. For specific questions, our business services teams are available to answer queries via live chat, email, or over the phone. So there you have it. That is a real whistle-stop tour of how the ICO supports innovation at all the different stages before and when you've entered the marketplace. But don't just take our word for it. Here's Lynn to show you what ICO support can help you achieve.
Apologies for that. Thanks, Maddie, and thanks, Matt. So now, as promised, we're going to hear from 4 innovators who were supported by our Sandbox team and our Innovation Hub. Just a little bit of info on their backgrounds. You'll hear from JISC, who was an early Sandbox participant. They worked with us on an innovation which uses data analytics to spot early signs of poor well-being in university students. Flying Binary will also be talking to us. Their innovation screens online content so people with eating disorders don't accidentally see images which may be harmful to them. Children as young as 8 could be using this innovation, so the Sandbox team also gave vital help in applying the children's code. SafetyNet has an innovation that also protects children, screening a child's phone for images of nudity and warning the child about the risk of sharing this kind of content. It's important that a child understands what this innovation does, so our Innovation Hub and other ICO departments helped SafetyNet to meet the transparency standards set by the Children's Code. And we'll also hear from ARM, Automated Regulatory Monitoring, who designed an AI platform so financial institutions could identify and support vulnerable customers quickly. The Innovation Hub advised ARM on embedding data protection by design when processing special category data. Let's hear what they have to say.
The value for our organisation was a greater understanding of the role of the innovation services and knowing that we could ask any questions and seek guidance.
I think the first benefit was confirmation that the idea wasn't completely unthinkable.
The innovation team at the ICO was helped us sort of understand how a multi-regulatory environment operates and how we might navigate that.
The ICO really helped us save a lot of time and probably money.
The ICO very quickly picked up what we were trying to do, look at the sort of issues that would arise, make suggestions, and they actually took us a lot further than we had originally thought of going.
The ICO team, the wider ICO team worked with us collaboratively.
They were extremely helpful, providing information about how we needed to take data and how careful we needed to be with the data that we were ingesting.
We found the innovation services friendly, welcoming, and willing to advise wherever possible.
They provided examples tailored to our needs, and it really helped us understand if we were doing the right thing to keep our data safe.
They made lots of suggestions about how we could use the law and existing tools.
The ICO Innovation Services wanted to engage openly and honestly with us.
They were continually challenging us to say, we think you can do more.
100% recommend that people in similar organisations to ours interact with the innovation services as much as possible.
Regulation's an opportunity to deliver our best tech innovations on behalf of society. Why wouldn't you collaborate with the ICO to ensure you could do that? For me, it's a no-brainer.
I would recommend any entrepreneur to connect with ICO Innovation Services, because no matter how familiar with regulation, you are always going to have questions, and you're going to need clarification when you're thinking about your product, not only now, but in the future.
I'd certainly recommend engagement with the ICO to others, just because they are such a great source of knowledge and expertise.
So there you have it. Whether you're innovating right now or in 5 years' time, the ICO has a range of services to support you. And as Maddie said, we're expanding these services to often even more very soon. We're passionate about innovation, and please do get in touch with us if we can help you too. So that's the end of our formal session. We do have some time left, and we have had some questions in. So Sarah, can you let us know what questions we're covering?
Thank you, Lynn. So looking here at the questions that we've received, Adam, I think this one's directed at you. Does inferred emotion by default equal profiling, or just when meaning is attributed, such as the example you gave of looking confused or nervous in an airport?
It's a great question. Thanks, Sarah, and whoever asked it. Really, what inferred emotion means is emotional AI, or the biometric technology, is picking up patterns in, what your face looks like, what your gait is doing, what your mouth and eye movements are doing, and running that through a pattern recognition process to say, well, people who displayed these types of attributes often had this type of emotional state or this type of mindset. So it's a form of pattern recognition based on your biometric signatures. So it is inferring a state of being based on the movements or behaviors that you're undertaking. So really, it's AI doing that. It's AI predicting something based on past behavior, much like we see AI doing things now. It's just using much more sophisticated biometric signatures to do that and to infer an emotional state, which may or may not be present in actuality.
Thank you. The next one, Matt, might be best placed for you. How do you define high-risk processing? Can this merely be determined by the quantity or extent of the personal data processing that is being undertaken?
Okay, yeah, so that's a really good question. So we'll break that down bit by bit, and then hopefully I'm able to answer that. So risk is kind of like a basic concept, implies a more than remote chance of some harm. That's kind of general literature around risk. And high risk, in terms of UK GDPR, it wants you to be considering things such as likelihood and severity of any potential harm to individuals. So think of it as like an X and Y axis where you've got likelihood and you've got severity. So naturally, high risk implies a higher threshold of just risk, either because the harm is more likely or because the potential harm is more severe, or it could be a combination of the two. So that's kind of part of the role of a DPIA, is to be able to make that sort of assessment. I think critically the important question to ask with DPIAs in particular when we're talking about high risk processing is the question is whether it's likely to result in a high risk. It's not that it is high risk, it's whether it is likely to result in. So you need to be taking into account the nature the scope, the context and purposes of the processing. And you need to be screening for any sort of flags that might indicate that you need to do a DPIA. So that includes the likelihood and severity of the potential harm. So as you say, you know, when we're talking about the quantity and extent of personal data, you might look at that in the context of your processing, the purposes of which you're doing that for, the scope, if it's, you know, large scale and you've got sensitive data. There is some factors that would indicate that that might likely result in a high risk to those individuals. So it's about being able to kind of scale that and assess that in your DPIA. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Matt. So I think we may only have time for one more, but Lynn or Maddie, how do I know whether my project fits with the hub or the sandbox?
So I'm happy to have a go at that one, and then Maddie can tell me if I've missed anything. The main difference between the hub and the sandbox is the sandbox is a one-to-one relationship, where if you have a development that you need help with, and it will have significant public benefit, and it aligns with ICO priorities, and it is innovative genuinely, then you can apply to enter the sandbox and you would get one-to-one mentoring and partnership with one of our sandbox team. We would work to identify what the privacy challenges are and put together a plan on how we would help you to address those. We don't do the work for you, but you can apply to enter the sandbox at any stage, even if your development isn't in one of the areas that we are currently identifying as high focus. So at the moment, we are looking at innovations relating to data sharing, maybe in health, central government, finance, higher and further education, or law enforcement, or anything to do with developing new technologies, which is incredibly wide. But basically, if you've got an idea and applying data protection legislation is proving difficult, you can apply to the sandbox, and it's a one-to-one service. The hub tends to be more of a one-to-many service. So where we have several businesses working with another agency like a regulator or a catapult, where many businesses will be needing the same type of advice to help them develop usually the answer to a challenge. So it might be, say, something to do with smart cities or safety tech or something like that. We will ask the hub to work with all of those businesses to mentor them and help them to make their developments as privacy safe as they can. Maddie, what have I missed?
I think it's a perfect summary. One of the differences as well, I would say, is that the way the hub works, because we're working with big groups of innovators, it tends to be quite an informal process. So although there are terms and conditions, what we're doing is it's that friendly chat with a regulator that you'd rather have to warn you early about how to build privacy compliance into your design.
Sarah, is that the end of the questions?
I think that may be all we have time for, given that we've only got about 1.5 minutes left of the session.
In which case, all that remains to do is to thank all of you for joining us. I hope we've managed to entertain and inform, perhaps. And if you do have any questions around developing an innovation, please do have a look on the website and get in touch. We'd be delighted. See you soon.